Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Design Review Committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order for Wednesday, January 8th, 2025. We will begin with roll call.
Committee Member Banducci.
Here.
Committee Member Browning.
Here.
Committee Member Cameron.
Here.
Committee Member Ellsworth.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item B today is oath of office for Committee Member Cameron. Do I have something to read? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Thanks. All right. I think I just have him say his name, right? Okay. So after I say I, you can state your name, and then I'll read the rest, and then you'll just have to
Affirm.
Okay. I
Ryan Cameron.
do solemnly affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California and the Charter of the City of Eureka. That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter in the capacity of Commissioner for the Design Review Board of the City of Eureka.
I will.
Thank you. And then you'll sign this, and we'll, okay. And then I'll sign it too. Okay. We can do that later.
At the end.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Congratulations. All right. Item C, election of officers. Up for election is the chair and the vice chair. Any comments or suggestions from the committee?
Do we need to wait until we get a fifth member?
No.
Okay. And I'd like to nominate Cassidy Banducci for chair.
Thank you, Gailey.
I'll second.
All right. Thank you both. I'll accept the nomination and allow the committee to vote.
Committee Member Browning.
Aye.
Committee Member Ellsworth.
Yes.
Committee Member Cameron.
Aye.
Thank you. And Chairwoman Banducci.
Yes, aye. Thank you. All right. That takes us to item C, point B. Yeah, vice chair. I'm still on the same agenda item. I said C, point B, vice chair. Any nominations for vice? Anybody want to do vice chair?
We've been rolling pretty smooth the way it's been, so I would propose that Gailey picks up vice chair.
Thank you, Chuck.
I'll second that.
Okay.
As she wants it.
Yes. Okay. Very good. The committee has made a motion, and we will take a vote on the motion.
Committee Member gonna let you go for this one. Committee Member Ellsworth.
Yes.
Committee Member Cameron.
Aye.
Chairwoman Banducci.
Aye.
And Gailey. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you all. Okay. Item D, approval of the minutes. These minutes are from October 23rd and also November 13th. The committee has the option to approve them independently or together. Any comments or questions about the meeting minutes as presented in the package today? And if there are no comments, do we have a motion?
I'd like to move that we approve both the October 23rd and the November 13th minutes.
Thank you, Gailey.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and the committee will vote.
Committee Member Browning.
Aye.
Committee Member Ellsworth.
Yes.
Committee Member Cameron.
Aye.
And Chairwoman Banducci.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, item E today, public hearings continued. There are none. That takes us to item F, our new public hearings today. Our only item on the agenda is the Eureka Regional Transit and Housing Center, also known as Earth Center, located at the 600 block of 3rd Street. And this is a density bonus project. Design review is required. The recommendation is to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution conditionally approving. and we'll have staff run us through the report.
Good morning. I'm Senior Planner Savage, and I will be presenting the Eureka Regional Transit and Housing Center, or the EAR Center, this morning. As you discussed, I already stated, the property is located on the south side of 3rd Street between G and H Streets. The developer, Danco Communities, is requesting approval for a density bonus and design review. The applicants for the project are the City of Eureka, Humboldt Transit Authority, and Danco Communities. Although we are although we are going to review the applicant's density bonus application and approval, the committee's action is limited to design review, specifically the exterior street-facing facades, which is the sole discretionary aspect of the project today. The density bonus and concessions in existing and future building permits are ministerial and not within design review's purview. I want you to bear with me today. I have a little bit of a tickle in my throat, and also it's going to be kind of a long presentation. Got a lot of information to go through. Yeah. There we go. Here's a bird's eye view of the project location. Looking closer, the project is located between G and H Streets on the south side of 3rd Street. The site is located in the downtown, or DT zone, where all the proposed uses, including government facilities, which will be HTA's bottom floor project, residents, restaurants, offices, and retail are all principally permitted. The site is just south of the coastal zone, shown as the hatched green area, and the Old Town National Historic District, and 3 blocks south of the city's northern waterfront on Humboldt Bay. The flat rectangular project site is currently 2 parcels used for public parking and is improved with asphalt paving, concrete curbing, limited landscaping planters, and parking meters. The City of Eureka, as the property owner, has completed a merger of the 2 parcels on January 3rd, 2025. Following development, the city will complete a condominium subdivision to separate the ownership of the housing on the upper floors, which will be transferred to Danco, from the ground floor transit center and commercial spaces, which will be transferred to HTA. On November 16th, 2021, Eureka City Council entered into a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, with HTA to collaborate on the development of the EAR Center. On February 1st, 2022, Council declared the project site exempt from Surplus Land Act regulations, and on March 1st, 2022, Council authorized the reduction of public parking from the Parking Assessment District. HTA was awarded a California State Transportation Agency 2022 Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program grant with up to $10 million for the construction of the ground floor intermodal transit center. And on May 1st, 2024, HTA's board adopted a resolution conditionally approving Danco as the developer for the EAR Center project. Finally, on June 4th, 2024, Eureka City Council authorized the city manager to enter into a development and disposition agreement, or DDA, with HTA for the EAR Center development, and also found the project categorically and statutorily exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, by adopting City Council Resolution number 2024-25. The EAR Center will be a 4-story mixed-use building having 19,400 square foot footprint and a total floor area of 75,701 square feet. The primary ground floor tenant of the EAR Center will be HTA Regional Transportation Center, or the Transit Center, which includes a public lobby and bathrooms, offices and support space for HTA, including a conference room, staff lounge, and staffed restrooms. There will be 5 leasable tenant spaces. Which is that's approximately 11,000 square feet for future commercial uses such as a cafe and retail shops. And finally, ground floor space supporting the upper floor housing, including a lobby with mailboxes, a manager's office, and bicycle storage room. The second through fourth floors, and here I'm showing the second floor, will have a total of 46 residential dwelling units consisting of 3 studio apartments, 18 one-bedroom, 13 two-bedroom, and 12 three-bedroom units. The second floor will contain residential common areas and amenities, including a community room with kitchen, a fitness room, a 2,613 outdoor terrace with playground. In addition, each floor will contain laundry facilities, and 2 floors, the third and fourth floor, will contain long-term bicycle storage for the tenants. And I want to, thank you. I want to just let everybody know that the bicycle storage that they're proposing, indoor and outdoor, is both more than they're required to do. The transit center is intended to integrate local and inner-city bus service with car share, ride share, bike share, bicycle, and pedestrian travel. To that end, the development will provide various improvements, including expanding sidewalks, new bus shelters along H Street, new charging stations for buses along the alley, new electrical vehicle charging stations along G and 3rd Streets. There will also be a major configuration of H Street between 3rd and 4th Streets. The west lane, where the bus shelter currently is located, will become a bus-only lane. And a new bike lane will run on the eastern side of the street. The current street parking configuration on the east side of H Street between 3rd Street and the alley will change from angled to parallel, which will cause the street to be reduced to 1 lane in this section. However, on H Street between the alley and 4th Street, there will be no street parking, allowing 2 lanes for vehicle travel. Under state density bonus law, housing development projects that propose 5 or more units and include affordable housing are allowed to exceed the local jurisdiction's max density limits and deviate from other development standards and zoning code requirements in exchange for below market rate rents. Because the project is located within 1/2 mile of a major transit stop, which is currently located on H Street adjoining the project site, and once the Air Center is developed, the transit stop will be located on the project site. And because all proposed housing units will be deed restricted affordable for very low and low income households, exclusive of 1 manager's unit, the project qualifies for unlimited density and also a height increase, as well as up to 5 incentives and concessions from the city. Although the proposed project qualifies for unlimited residential density and the automatic height increase under state density bonus law, the proposed 43-foot tall building height does not exceed the maximum 100-foot tall standard in the DT zone district, and there is no maximum density in the zone district. Therefore, these allowances are not needed. However, the project is located within a pedestrian-focused frontage, or PFF area, and 1 concession incentive is being requested by the developer to deviate from the 65% storefront transparency development standard. You can see that in the picture that just popped up. The developer is proposing a minimum of 55% of building frontage transparency located between 3 and 7 feet above the sidewalk in order to provide additional wall area for lateral force, for example, for earthquakes and wind reinforcement. The goal of design review is to make sure that the new development meet objective design review standards, particularly for street-facing facades. This helps ensure that the buildings are well articulated and visually interesting, contributing to the overall character of the Eureka, of the area. Eureka Municipal Code design standards require that new buildings incorporate at least 2 architectural features from a list of 15 features, and that the facades do not have blank wall areas greater than 10 feet by 10 feet square. Tonight we'll be looking at 3 street-facing facades. The first one is 3rd Street, and then G Street, and finally H Street. The 3 street-facing facades meet the following 3 of the 15 architectural features: roof form variation, horizontal articulation, and cladding materials facade. Okay, roof form variation. The 3rd Street elevation has 35% roof form variation. The G Street elevation has 29%. And the H Street elevation has 36%, when the standard is 25%. The roof also has wooden eaves, soffits, and roof brackets. The next is horizontal articulation and cladding materials facade. The horizontal articulation is easier to see on the side views. This is the northeast corner fronting 3rd and H Streets. There must be a projection or recess of at least 1 foot, and it must be greater than 1 story in height. Here is an example of the horizontal articulation. The horizontal articulation along 3rd Street is approximately 58%, 36% along H Street, and 35% along G Street, when the standard is 25%. Finally, the 2nd through 4th floors, or over 75% of the building's facade, is clad in high-grade metal, when the standard is 40%. As you can see, the project does not have a blank wall area greater than 10 by 10 square feet. Exterior materials. The exterior materials standard in Eureka Municipal Code requires that all exterior materials allow for long-term durability and appearance, and includes a number of standards to ensure high-quality materials. The project will utilize 3 materials, including concrete stem walls with decorative finish pattern, shown in those 2 locations, actually all the way around the building. Cement plaster siding, which will cover less than 50% of the street-facing building walls on the ground floor. And metal panel siding with factory-applied color coatings applied in a variety of panel profiles for the 2nd and 4th floors. Based on the analysis in the staff report, the Air Center development qualifies for the requested density bonus, will not be detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare, and complies with all applicable design review criteria. Therefore, the recommendation is to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution conditionally approving the density bonus and design review. Staff has prepared a suggested motion, but will stop screen sharing to allow for discussion. Staff, as well as Danco and HTA, are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, we'll begin with questions from the committee to city staff.
I have a question about losing parking on 3rd Street. How many parking spaces will that eliminate?
I'm not sure, but I could get back to you. It will on
Is
third
it 2 blocks of for the buses?
Can we pull the site plan back up? Maybe that
On
might
third-
be
okay.
helpful. Yeah.
Can you pull the site plan back up? On 3rd Street, it will eliminate the parking on the south side. So like directly behind the parking lots. And on H Street, the parking that is there, adjacent, there you go, adjacent to like GHD will remain, but it will become parallel instead of angled. Oh, no, perpendicular. No, parallel. Parallel instead of angled,
Yeah.
yes.
So there's
And then-
perpendicular, diagonal right now, and then it's going to go
Yes.
to parallel.
And then the parking, there will be no parking on the next section between the alley and 4th Street.
and that's 1 block.
1 block.
So the section between 3rd and the alley, that's a bus-only lane now?
Yes.
That, okay. So are those cars allowed to use that lane to park there?
The
How-
cars,
how will they
so
get
you
to
can
their
see
parking spots?
the green hatched line is the bike lane, and on the other side of that, you can see the parallel parked cars.
I think the confusion is you've identified the whole block from 3rd to 4th as being a bus only, and there's cars that parked on the parallel cars parked there. So the question is how do those cars access that if that's a bus only?
It's not
Section of
a
the
bus
block.
only. If I stated bus only, it's 1 lane for cars and then the parking bus stations.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. HTA is here if we want to call them up also to answer some questions.
Okay.
So, but then I have another question. So now you're doing parallel parking. It used to be angled. So you're eliminating more parking spots there.
Yes.
How many?
I don't know.
We don't have a count. HTA may be able to answer that.
Okay, let's stick with questions for staff, and then we can bring HTA up here shortly. Go ahead, Chuck.
I have a question. It's a design question. When this project first came before our group about a year ago for a pre-approval, the architectural design was considerably different than what we're looking at here. And I'm wondering if somebody could talk a little bit about why it's so different than the original architecture that we saw, which was much more compatible with the community.
It's my understanding that it was a different developer architect that worked on that. And when Lisa went over the background slide, the city was in agreement with another consultant with the school, I believe, with Cal Poly Humboldt. And then that agreement, that MOU fell through. And then that's when Danco stepped up and HGA selected them. But Servitas or something was the previous.
Yes.
So
And
they're
then they
different
backed
architects.
out and Danco moved forward.
What you're saying is that there was no option to carry that architectural style forward with the new developer?
There was no requirement by the city council or HTA to retain that original design.
Any other? Excuse me. It's contagious, Lisa. Any other questions for city staff? Okay. No? Yes. Sorry, I thought I heard something. Questions for the applicant or the applicant's agent? Would you like to bring them forward? Gailey, I know you had questions. Maybe they can help talk about the parking questions.
That would be great.
If HTA or the applicant's agent would like to come forward, we'll start with.
And the architect is here as well.
Okay. Do I still have the power? Yes. Nope. I don't have the power to raise it up for him. Now I do. If you could state your name. Yeah, thank you. Oh,
Right there.
okay. And then restate your name, please.
I'm Garrett McSorley, architect with McSorley Architecture, working with Danco and HTA and the city on this project. The question regarding the parking along H Street, that's a emphasis on a continuation of the bicycle improvements that are on the rest of H Street that head south. And the diagonal parking was creating too narrow of a roadway there. You can see with having the bus parking and the bicycle lane, the bicycle protection lane, there wasn't enough room to maintain the diagonal parking. And there is a loss of a couple parking spaces in that area. But overall, there's, like on 3rd Street right now, you have, even though we're showing 2 buses parked there, the current parking lot has multiple driveway entrances. So there's actually not very much parking on 3rd Street as it is now. And so I think we're about the same overall. So in that regard also, all of the public works improvements with regard to the way the streets are improved, the curb and gutter and all of the parking, that's really all within the public works, jurisdiction. So we work with the city engineering department to make sure that all of those elements are the way, they will mandate ultimately. Those aren't necessarily controlled by the project. We're just here trying to make sure that we're showing how all of the public works improvements around the buildings could be built, but ultimately it's going to be the city's, public works department's jurisdiction.
Did you have something to add?
Well, I was just going to clarify that I think you guys are asking these informational questions just for education for the public, but really what you're acting on tonight is the street-facing facades, the 3. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions for Garrett? Any questions related to architecture? Okay, thank you. All right. Being that there's no further questions for the applicant's agent, the architect, we will begin our public hearing. Anyone in the audience who wish to speak, you may come forward. You each all have an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes and address the committee. It's just first come, first serve. Good morning. If you could
Good
state
morning.
your
Can
name and city of residence, please.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The mic's on. Okay. My name's Joanne McGarry. I took the bus here from Arcata because that is the way I move these days on the planet for a variety of reasons. And I am very interested in this Earth Center. I'll spend a lot of time in the Old Town area. I'm familiar with the existing bus opportunities. I'm also very familiar with Danco housing, and I'm currently actually pet sitting at the Plaza Point Apartments in Arcata across from the co-op. So I know I only have 2 minutes plus, but one of the things I've noticed in a lot of Danco development is they provide these community benefit or opportunities within the building that sometimes are underutilized. And one of the underutilized things is the manager's office. So I know you're talking about facades right now in a design review, but I think it's really important to go deeper than that sometimes when we're talking about things. So I will talk about the outside. I really am concerned about buses buses being underneath housing and acoustics and all that kind of thing, and also just aesthetics of the different things. I hope there's a lot of seating for people who will be waiting. I hope the bathrooms will be accessible for people. And one of the issues too is a functional rooftop, and I didn't quite hear exactly what the rooftop was going to be, but we could be really creative these days with how our rooftops are, not just a covering. One of the issues at the Sorrel Place Apartments in Arcata, that I also have a friend lives there, is no, everybody has to use the clothes dryer, and nobody can hang their clothes outside anywhere. And we're in a climate changing world with a lot of need to reduce our carbon footprint, and there's people like me who would be happy to dry my clothes in the sun when it arrives in our Humboldt County. But we need to be, I think, more creative, and sometimes Danco designs are a little too cookie cutter, and again, maybe not fitting into the neighborhood like we would like them to do. So the last thing I want to say is bicycle parking. I have a trike. I want to be able to ride my trike from Arcata on the Bay Trail and park it for long-term parking and hop on the bus down to Ukiah. And I want to make sure that all sizes of bikes, and there's enough space for bikes on that ground level.
Thank you very much. All right, anyone else? Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Phil Holland. I have the property at 351 G Street that's a neighbor to this project. Didn't really plan to speak today, but I don't think if anybody else doesn't stand up and say something, it does feel a little bit like Chuck said, a little bit of a bait and switch from what we saw originally with a bricks facade and arches across the top of the windows and so forth. So it seems like it's really starting to look more like the Vets building that's across from the co-op, with all the rectangular windows and just very plain, and that's arguably one of the least attractive buildings in Eureka, in my opinion. I'm also seeing that there's changes, maybe it doesn't have to do with the facade, but that they're running buses up and down the alley, which means the buses are going to be within about 3 feet of our business's entrance. And we were told that that wasn't going to happen, and we see as this continues to change. It looks like there's buses parked in the alley, and they're going to be coming by our building there. And finally, didn't see anything about the north-facing facade, and that's what we would look out of the windows from our business on the facade that faces the alley. So just curious. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Relina Crixton. I'm a resident of Eureka, and I'd like to comment my support for this project. I think it's a modern and refreshing take on some of the classic architecture features that we have in Eureka. While, they may be simple in presentation, I think sometimes the simplest designs can make the most impact and give way for some of the surrounding architectural features as well. I think the knee braces are a great addition to the exterior facade. And then just a reminder for the design review to think about how we might be able to transition these kinds of meetings, especially in circumstances such as these where it is just a ministerial review purely, where there aren't any significant changes that could be made. How could this be better tailored to take public input into account in a timely manner when it can be incorporated into design, if it makes sense within the project's budget and the overall fit and feel of the project. And that's it. In addition, I just wanted to remind everyone that AB 2097 eliminates any parking mandates for projects located within a half mile of a major transit stop. This was enacted in January 2024 by HCOG. And so when we talk about parking and parking loss, I think we have to move towards, rather than what will we lose, what can we gain by being a more transit-oriented community? And granted, there are some growing pains when you switch from one mode of transportation to another, but as another commenter pointed out, this is something that many of our community uses: buses, biking, transportation. When we make that easier to use, there's going to be more community buy-in and more support for it going on into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Do we have anybody on Zoom today?
Derek, do you see anyone on Zoom? Okay.
Yes, we do have someone on Zoom.
Okay. How do I get their cameras
Just
up?
a moment. He says that they don't have a camera, but they can talk now.
Okay, 'cause we can't even see their box without a face. So we can't see their name.
If the person who's wishing to speak on Zoom, if you could please present your name and city of residence.
This is Solomon Iverta. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
I'm Solomon Iverta. I live in Eureka. I actually live at the J. Lowenthal building at 426 2nd Street above my business, Eureka Books. And I just wanted to encourage you all to approve the design review for today. I think this is a great building, and as the staff has pointed out, it meets the requirements of the design review. I think it'd be a great addition to the community, and as a local business owner and property owner in the area, I think it would be a great benefit to the neighborhood. Thanks for your time and for your service on the committee.
Thank you. Any further comments from our Zoom group today? I don't know how many's on there. There are none?
That's all I can see.
Okay, great. Thank you. I do want to acknowledge too that there were many emails that came in to the city. I won't be reading all of them today, but generally there was a lot of support for the project within these emails that were submitted. Is that fair enough to, okay, generalize that? Okay. All right. Any further comments? Okay, I will close our public hearing. Bring the discussion back to the committee for any further comments, questions, or a motion.
I'm on the same page with Chuck about the previous design, and I'm wondering if this design could not have a nod to the previous design. I find this inharmonious to the other buildings that surround it on 3rd Street and 4th Street. And I think this is such an important project that there's room for improvement on it. I think the roof pitches could be more dramatic. I think they could add more window trim. I think the horizontal banding could be more pronounced. Also the vertical banding. I think also the deck is a lovely addition, but I'd love to see some iron railing to pronounce that as a deck. You really can't tell that it is that from afar. So those are basically my comments.
Thank you, Gailey. Did you have something?
I would concur with Gailey. One of the other testimonies that we heard earlier was that this was a cookie cutter design, and I made notes on this, and that was exactly my words on that. I think this is a great project. It's the right project. It's the wrong place, and it's the wrong design for the community in that area. So that's my concern with this, is the way it looks when it's in place with the surrounding community buildings.
Thank you, Chuck. Ryan, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, one good material to incorporate into this might be some brick. We have a lot of beautiful brick buildings in Old Town, and so it'd be nice to kind of see some homage paid to the local architecture. I like the building overall. I don't know that it necessarily, like Chuck said, fits in Old Town with the surrounding buildings, but it'd be nice to incorporate some of those materials that you see around the area into this. We don't have a ton of steel and metal clad buildings around town, so.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. I guess the question is how much suggestions can the committee give on materials? Considering, I mean, we're reviewing the facades today. Can there be suggestions
Yeah,
to change
certainly,
up building
certainly.
material? Okay.
I agree with Ryan. I would say that the metal material is inharmonious with the surrounding buildings, and a use of brick would be a great improvement.
I don't take much issue with the architecture or the design of the project, but I do hear committee here and maybe trying to incorporate, some building materials that start to tie into the surrounding architecture in that location. So I think that if the applicant was open to making some of those revisions and maybe being more or to contribute to just the architectural fabric in that in this specific location. But
I mean, maybe you could ask the architect to come up and see if they have any ideas how to incorporate your ideas.
Garrett, do you mind coming back?
And then maybe if Garrett does want to touch on why the original design was scrapped.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Hi, I'm Garrett McSorley, architect. I wouldn't really say it's a change design. Like the old building design that we saw the pictures of from a couple years ago was a different project. This is really a new project. That previous design was like 23 apartments, and then there was another concept where it was going to be many more small student housing units. That's all gone away. This is an entirely new project with family housing. So these are 46 apartments for families. This is not like a cookie cutter project from my perspective. This is a very high quality project, a very expensive building. And we can incorporate different materials. Brick is definitely one of the things that we talked about early on in the process. And we found that brick is a budget buster. It's very expensive, and it doesn't provide the sort of like long-term maintenance that the materials we have shown are. I think there's not a lot of metal in Eureka right now with metal siding that you see, but this is a unique application that we actually have an opportunity to use something that's not already prevalent, like just repeating and using the same materials that are already there in the Old Town doesn't necessarily respect Old Town. I think there's historic buildings that should remain. Like we're just a block down from the Carson Block building, a gem, of a building. Trying to repeat and copy that building would be a mistake, in my opinion. And the metal, I think if you can see on the elevation drawings, there's a key on the right-hand side of the elevation drawings I can see here. I don't know if you have a slide of it, but the metal panel profiles, there's actually a unique application. It's not just like corrugated barn metal screwed to the side of the wall. It's actually, do we have the enlarged view of that little
Perhaps that, yeah.
the key that you have there on the drawings there on the right?
In the staff report,
There is
yeah.
one in the staff report.
Right, so that that's a very intentional effort to use material that's not already prevalent and everywhere in Eureka, and use something that we can fit within the project budget that's not going to get value engineered or become a major problem down the road. And I think it's actually really interesting, and it'll be really nice. It provides a various scale. So like the green metal siding, the copper metal siding, the width of the panel profile, it's like varies between like 6-inch wide, and then you have a 2-inch gap, and then a 2-inch rib, and then a 2-inch gap, and then a 4-inch rib. So there's a staggered pattern that creates a little bit of variation, even though the overall the wall is just metal siding. It's metal siding with a lot of different character and scale associated with it. You can see there's sections with the gray siding that have a consistent metal panel width, and then it changes up and becomes a little bit more interesting. So the elevation drawings may seem flat. It may seem there's not a lot going on, but I think in the real world, when it's built, it'll be evident that there's actually a lot of thought and care to create a sense of scale. That's one of the things we like about brick, is it is a human scale. You can like, it's you know, scaled to the human hand. And I think this metal siding application does a similar thing where it actually breaks down the building and makes it really interesting and creates a shadow. The roof line maybe looks boring from a flat elevation, but when you're actually, this is a much more varied roof line than you would expect on a building of this size, where a typical building would have a parapet. So the exterior walls would just go straight up, there'd be a cap, and there'd be a flat roof. And here we have a pitched roof with standing metal roof with eaves that overhang at least 3 feet on all sides of the buildings. So those eaves create a shadow line, and the underside of the eaves is finished with a clear finished wood, which matches the diagonal brackets and the timber frame awnings around the base of the building. And then if you see this, the edge of the roof is staggered and cut back, and the whole roof concept is driven by solar. The entire roof, except for you can see this little section of roof here that's facing north. You wouldn't actually ever see that in person, but the rest of the roof is all covered with solar panels. These projects are net zero energy, so families who live here, they could, their unit is set up to have a utility bill of like $10 a month, and the way that's done is through the roof design. So if we wanted to create a whole new roof with spires and different gables, those all drastically reduce the amount of solar panels we can fit in the project, and it has a dramatic impact on the residents in the future. So,
question for you: what if you were to pitch those just 10% higher?
What that would do is we would increase the height of the building on 3rd Street, which would, every foot taller the building is, it could add more shade to 3rd Street and the buildings across the street from the project. So even though we could make this building 100 feet tall, we're trying to keep it low in profile in order to not shade the street.
Can we go to the perspective view of this? I think that might be helpful, to just get a better feel of like the human scale and the perspective from being down on the street and like being able to look up, to the roof lines there. Thank you.
The concrete base is an example of something that works well, where it provides some structural benefit, because the structural shear walls can land on a nice strong concrete stem wall, and it reduces the height of the wood shear walls. But then it also provides this aesthetic benefit, because you have this nice, clean, heavy, strong base that creates an effect on the building. With actually, we can use different patterns in the form boards. So the concrete base itself could be it's effectively a brick pattern. We probably wouldn't use an actual like brick texture. It'd be something a little bit different, but it could have a pattern within it, and that's what's included in the staff report there. In the elevations, you can actually see some variation in the texture of the concrete base. So it's an example where we're using it's not just an applied, like just put brick on it. It's actually using the integral part of the building, the structure of the building itself, and using that to the aesthetic benefit of the overall project. The stucco cement plaster base would also have control lines in specific locations. This elevation drawing, you can see like there's a shadow line near where there would be control joints. And it also provides, there's all the opportunity in the future for signage and murals or any other things that could happen as the building, progresses into the future. One of the things we look at right now is these, like this building is going to be affordable housing for 50, 55 years minimum. And when we look at new buildings, we can come up with lots of new designs, but it's really the older buildings, like the affordable housing projects that have been around for 20, 30 years. Those are the ones we're looking at and seeing how did that building hold up? Does it still look as good as it did in the original renderings or when it was first built? And this building is designed specifically so that 20 years from now, when we look at it, it'll still be clean and nice and durable. We're not going to have a building that's going to be a huge maintenance problem because those buildings tend to not. You can't keep up with it.
So I have another question. So on the 4th floor, you have those two supports that go up to the roof. Why would you not repeat that on the other side?
That roof is pitching towards the direction of where the gable knee braces are, and so on the other side of the wall, the roof is pitching the other way. So you'd be on a slope portion of the roof instead of on the eave. So it'd be
So you'd have one longer
it'd be a
than
much
the other.
it'd be a
and it
much
would look
different
kind
scenario.
of
And I
off,
think this
yeah.
emphasizes that that's the main front sort of pedestrian plaza of the transit center. The main outdoor space is on that frontage on H Street, and so it's just kind of tipping you towards that direction. If we were going to put a large clock on the building, that's probably where we'd put it. But we don't have a large clock. We're just using something a little more subtle in those timber braces, and then those timber braces relate to the timber beams that are shown in the awning at the ground floor level.
Thanks, Garrett. Anything further? Questions answered? Oh,
I
go
do
ahead.
appreciate the attention to how these buildings are going to hold up over time, because there's, you get grants and stuff to build them, and then when it comes to maintaining them, where does that money come from? So I do appreciate the importance that was put into that, because keeping these looking nice is going to keep downtown looking nice. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion? Yeah, go ahead, Chuck.
When I'm looking at the design of this building in contrast with the rest of the community and some of the other newer construction pieces that have been installed, it harkens back to me to the Bauhaus architecture, and I think at least three of us here on this board are familiar with that. And that's the design style from about 1910 till Art Deco kicked in around 1935. And it was an attempt to be modern. And what we ended up with is a lot of boxy looking buildings. And I see that design style somewhat reflected in this. And design is my concern on this. And that is our purview. So I'm coming at this, just looking at this design, thinking how it is incompatible with the rest of the community. The project itself is terrific. I'm absolutely all in on that. So that's my concern, and I felt I had to bring it forward.
I share your concern, Chuck.
Okay, thank you both. Anything further? Okay. All right. I guess you could bring up the suggested motion and see where we go. Okay. If there's no further comment from the committee, is there a motion? Okay, I'll kick it off then. I move the Design Review Committee adopt a resolution conditionally approving the density bonus and design review for the Eureka Regional Transit and Housing Center, the Earth Center, on the south side of 3rd Street between G and H Streets. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and the committee will now vote.
Committee Member Browning?
No.
Committee Member Ellsworth?
No.
Committee Member Cameron?
Aye.
And Chairwoman Banducci?
Aye.
Motion failed. So I just want to do a couple follow-ups. So if we remember our presentation, from Brian Heaton with the Housing Accountability Act, when housing projects meet all of the objective standards, so like the Design Review Committee, you can request changes to the facade to help make your community character findings, but really those findings, the denial based on it not fitting in with the community, that is subjective. So I believe this probably will get appealed to the Planning Commission because if you were to make changes on the facade to try to make your subjective findings, you would also have to balance not making the project financially infeasible. So even if you did approve it with substantial facade changes, if that made it financially infeasible, it would get appealed also. So full transparency, it's going to be appealed to the Planning Commission.
Okay. I don't know if there's another motion on the table here that the committee wants to present. You still do have that opportunity since this motion failed. We'd have to come up with either some conditions of approval, correct? Please.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You all could make a different motion.
Yeah.
But just to read from your bylaws, a tie vote equals motion failed, resulting in disapproval of the action requested. So even a tie vote is a no vote. It's a disapproval of the design. But you could always, if somebody has a different motion, the item is still open. But at this point, it's a denial.
Okay. Any other suggested motions from the committee? I don't know how we get from...
I don't know how we do either. I didn't get the impression from the architect that he was willing to be fluid with this at all.
Hi, Garrett.
I'm Garrett McSorley. We're absolutely open to comments and suggestions. The main comment I heard was we like brick. I don't know if there's something else in more particular.
I had mentioned more importance to the vertical and horizontal development. I had mentioned railing where the deck is to indicate that it's a deck. I can go back to my notes, but there were several suggestions.
Yeah, we have some notes right here. So more window trim. It said horizontal and vertical blending, iron railing to pronounce the deck, have more roof variation in the higher pitches.
Is the deck we're talking about on the back side of the building? Is that?
Yeah, the alley.
Okay, so we don't actually we can't condition that because we don't have purview over that side because we're street facing only. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
So we can do the other 3 sides, but not that one.
Always add a recommendation for that one.
Yeah, I feel like a railing would look nice there, but
The intent on that railing is just to be more opaque on the lower portion of it because a typical guardrail is like 42 inches above the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a family project. There could be children up there playing, and that is the intended place to have a small tot lot. So I think actually having it a little bit opaque at the lower level, but the railing could be maybe the opaque section is 3 feet tall, and then there's a gap, and then that top guardrail, so there's some openness, and you can see that it's a terrace, and you can see that there's visible landscaping on that terrace to make it a really attractive place. I think the horizontal and vertical articulation. I think we'd have to understand a little bit more about what that would entail, what we could do. in this
Thicker
meeting.
banding, vertically and horizontally.
Uh-huh.
So the width of the metal paneling.
I'd probably superimpose banding on top of that.
Superimposed bending? I'm not sure.
Banding.
Banding.
On top of I don't think, well, constructability, that doesn't really shake out, but
There is a trim. There's trim in there, and you can see the horizontal trim lines at the top of the windows in that rendering.
Right, that's what I'm referring to. I don't think they're important enough.
We could make them a wider profile. Typically, that would be about 2 inches, but we can make it any width. Could be
4 to 6, something like that.
Yeah. That would work.
Garrett, you had mentioned wood. That's just under the eaves of the right, not at the top underneath the
soffit panels. Is that
just
the
soffit panels or wood?
Yeah, just underneath, on the bottoms of the roof overhangs, and the bottom of the awning overhang. So we get some of that natural wood, but it's in a location where it's protected from weather, and it'll look good into the future.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I have a question. And I'm not familiar with the material, but I see it being installed over at the Habit Burger that's going up on the corner of 5th and T. And the panels that they're installing on that have a brick facade on them that appears to be made from foam, and actually looks like brick. It's about as nice a simulation of brick as I've ever seen for an imitation product. And if you haven't seen it, I would suggest you go by and look at how that's going together, because it's quite like this building, but it incorporates banding of brick, and it's not brick. I mean, when you talk about brick being a budget buster, obviously the people that designed the building for Habit Burger understood that and figured a way to put it into the design without breaking the budget.
I don't know if I'd personally suggest foam brick. I find it to be a feature that would fail over time. You lean a ladder up against it, it dents. You know, it's not an ideal. I don't think it's an ideal product for our area, but I hear what you're saying.
These fast food restaurants, they seem to redo them every 5 years, so I don't think they're going for a whole lot of longevity. They want the next new design, unfortunately. But so yeah, I'd be interested to see how that holds up to people kicking it and leaning against it, and my rate of things we have around here.
I'm gonna throw out an idea to try and, because overall, I don't think that what is being presented here is outside the bounds of the review here. So, we have some wood elements in the canopy. I'm just curious if maybe even, like they have a faux metal wood panel aesthetic. I've seen that on many, public buildings before. I'm just wondering if maybe drawing like the wood from the canopies down into the facade in some locations, Garrett, might, maybe like at the primary entry or something like that, to just try and maybe bring some of that warmth down to the human scale and just tying those architectural elements in together as an option, so that maybe it's not just the perception of it's like a complete metal facade, at floors 2 through 4. So maybe like where it says Ride Humboldt on the east elevation.
Yeah, in that recessed area.
Or some of those recessed areas. Yeah, of just trying to pull some of those other building materials. I know that Old Town is historically Victorian. Wood is a highly used application in our community. So I'm just trying to think of like, how do we maybe pay tribute to that as well in this facade and in the overall design. So as a suggestion, I don't know how the committee feels about that, but I really do appreciate the sloped roofs. As Garrett alluded to, a lot of times when we have these taller structures, we just see flat roofs, and we are in an area of high rain and moisture, and it is good to see canopies for, at that pedestrian level, and also to continue to see that even at the upper levels. Those are some few comments and suggestions there. Yep.
I realize that Cassidy's point about the foam being pretty susceptible to damage, but I want to point out that the Redwood Capital Bank on the corner of G and 4th is stucco and foam. All the decorative elements and design features that are on that are foam. I have worked on that building for the last, 20 years and have never had a problem with it. Of course, I'm aware that it's foam. And so I approach any job on that building accordingly. So I just want to make that point.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're very open to any of these, all of these options. I think if we were to, in this meeting, be able to achieve that, I think definitely open to discussing and itemizing those modifications so we can include them, in the conditions for approval, if that's possible. We're definitely open.
So if we can condition it on enlarging the horizontal banding and trying to incorporate some wood finish type at the openings, at the entryways, recessed entryways, would that?
You could throw it out there as a motion and see how it goes.
Brian, are you suggesting that we, if the building design changes, we would not see it before approving it?
If it's a condition of approval, then they would have to meet those requirements, and the city staff would do that.
Correct. I mean, I can always report
Administratively.
back, but you wouldn't be acting on it. It would just be like, oh, okay.
I'd like to see it.
So, right now the motion has failed. You could make another motion to either approve it with conditions, or you could send a message to the next governing body of the things that you recommended, and then see if the applicant changes the design. I think that could occur, or you could try to condition it now to meet a design you want. But then that way, if they did make some changes to the design when it went to the planning commission, you could come as a member of the public and comment on the revised design.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
It looks like that would probably be the best path forward given where we are right now. The design concerns and suggestions are recorded, and so that makes the most amount of sense.
Can somebody help me? I lost my agenda. Sorry. Technical issue here. Oh, thank you. I clicked on the staff report and then it, thank you. Couldn't find the tab. Uh-oh. I think you just have to turn it on.
Cassidy, I'm going to have to leave. If we can do this immediately, I can stay vote.
Okay. 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 Can you put the motion back up again? Sorry. I'd like to try it again with conditions. And then go from there. All right. I move the Design Review Committee adopt a resolution conditionally approving the density bonus in the design review for the Eureka Regional Transit and Housing Center, or Center, on the south side of 3rd Street between G and H Streets, with the conditions that the applicant adds the wood paneling, whether it's actual wood or a metal
Look-alike.
Yes, thank you. And what was the second thing?
The banding.
Oh,
horizontal banding.
and I'll take the suggestion from committee member Browning about the increase in the banding from I
Around
think it's
the
like 2
windows?
inches now to 4 to 6 inches on the metal siding.
Oh, okay.
On floors 2 through 4. I think I captured that.
So that's the siding, not the window trim. You're talking about the
There's a
banding for the-
horizontal band that
At the top of each window
yeah, that
section
Oh, at the top of
Yeah.
each window. Okay.
yeah,
that runs along the building.
not related to the windows.
Okay.
Sorry. Do you have a
I have to
Just-
go. I have to go to my doctor's appointment.
You mean along the roof line, the eave banding? Here, let me.
okay? Just yeah. Gailey has to leave for an appointment, so we're losing a committee member.
Do you understand what she's saying, right? What are we?
Yeah, I think she's talking about this banding right here.
Oh, I see. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Just horizontally. Yeah.
Cassidy, I had one comment. I'm concerned that the scale of this building, even a 6-inch banding would be way too small.
Okay.
So 6 to 12 inches,
I think
or just increase
it needs to be proportional to the architecture. I don't want to put a size on it without an architect being able to determine the scale of it against the rest of the building. So
We would just make it like a 4 to 10 inch range and let them
determine
decide what works best in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
with a minimum
4
of
to-
4
4 to
inches.
12.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure. Minimum of 4 inches up to 10 inches, or a dimension that is
Chuck wants 12.
up to 12.
Jumping up and down here.
Okay. 4 to 12 inches on the horizontal banding increase.
Okay.
From what is being presented today. Okay. I believe we have a motion with the conditions. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And can we just repeat it one more time, or maybe I can read off what I wrote down?
Sure.
Make sure we got it right.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the added conditions that you add wood paneling or a metal look-alike of the wood paneling, is that just like throughout it, or just in those certain areas that were horizontally articulated
I think the primary entrances, so that would have been on
They're
I'm afraid-
recessed entryways, basically.
the recessed entryways. So that would carry from the underside of the E all the way down to the first floor.
Okay.
So that
Yeah.
carries all the way through all 4 floors.
Okay. And then increase the banding between the floors from 2 to between 4 and 10 inches, or 12, inches. Whatever the architect determines will look best.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so add wood paneling from the roof eave to the ground floor in the recessed entryways, and increase the banding on each floor from right now it's 2 to increase it to 4 to 12 inches. That's it. Yeah, for each floor.
Okay.
I think we got it.
That is the motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and the committee will now vote.
Committee Member Ellsworth,
No.
Committee Member Cameron,
Aye.
Chairwoman Banducci.
Aye.
So motion carries.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item G, old business, there is none. Under item H today, new business, there's a bylaws update. The recommendation is to review and adopt proposed changes to the bylaws.
Yeah, and actually we just found out after we published the agenda that the only changes were edits to the staff, to city staff. So that's not a substantial change. So you don't need to adopt them unless you want to. Those are just
Just
kind
the
of,
staff name changes.
yeah,
in
but
there,
if there is any, if you see any copy edits, we can fix those right now. Or
Okay.
if you have anything larger that you want to add and change to it, we could agendize it for the future and I could make those changes.
Okay, thank you. Could we just table that till next meeting?
Sure.
Maybe when Gailey's back, make sure that there's no further comments from her as well.
Sure. I
Okay.
think that's okay.
Okay, great. Okay, item I, pre-application review. There is none. Item J, director's reports and communications.
Yeah, I just wanted to report that we have a new assistant planner. He started on Monday, Samuel Grifford. There he
Samuel.
is. So
Welcome.
we're, very happy to have him, and I hopefully we can get Caroline in here in our next meeting so we could do a resolution of service for her. She couldn't make this meeting.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll stay in contact with her. We won't hold a meeting if that's the only agenda item. So hopefully hopefully we'll have, I don't see anything in the pipeline right now.
Okay.
But hopefully we'll have something soon.
Okay.
And hopefully we can do some more pre-apps.
Yes. Pre-application reviews.
Yes.
We love those. Okay. Oh, of course. Yeah.
I would like to suggest that on the pre-app designs that we get to see, that when they finally come before us, that we don't see such a dramatic change in design from what we saw from the pre-app on this project to what we saw today. I mean, this design that we caught up with today is so different, and I can't imagine that, given the additional apartments and the expansion of the project that was given to our architect here, that they couldn't have adopted some of those same designs so that when it came before us, it looks similar, at least.
Yeah, well, hopefully people can watch these meetings and hear that. I can certainly share that information, but the pre-app is definitely non-binding feedback. So unfortunately, as much as I can tell them that that's what you would like, they don't necessarily have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
is the pre-app is optional for them, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So it would have been nice to have a pre-app on the new design.
I agree. And
So
we
that
know
we
it's
could
really
not
important,
just
but we
deny
can't
them.
force people to do it. And I know with a lot of these affordable housing developments, they're going after these tax credits, and it's always like, hurry up and wait, and we often have to jump as well to get it to you guys so that they can, get their entitlements, so that way they can apply for their tax credits and their funding. And, but I do always recommend the pre-application.
Yeah. And I think this committee is also open to special design review meetings if we need to accommodate, those types of timelines.
Yeah, I think, in this circumstance, we were still, making them update plans and get the designs just in time to write the report and get it out. But yeah, certainly special meetings, we can do that. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Item K, other reports and communications. I don't think there's anything here, but item L, oral communications. This section of the this section of the meeting provides the committee members and the public an opportunity to address the design review committee on any subject not appearing on the agenda. And pursuant to the Brown Act, the design review committee cannot act on any item that does not appear on the agenda. So I wanted to open that up to the committee and to the public if you wish to address the design review committee on other items here. Hi.
Hi, my name is
I think you have to push the button in the front.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Joanne McGarry, and I explained to you I live in Arcata. We do not have design review committee in Arcata anymore. And so I came here for many reasons, but one was to see how a design review committee operates, because it's been a long time, and I'm not as familiar. And I appreciate this deliberation and a lot of the comments, the wizened comments from the dais there of things. And I hope that I can convince people that in Arcata we need a design review. But I just do think it's really important that we don't kind of race things through oftentimes, especially on important projects like this. Understanding that grants and whatever was being explained here, but you know, that comment bait and switch, I really kind of identify with a lot. That sometimes little old citizens like me who really care about what things are going to be built and look like and how they will actually function, it's really important. And I'm learning the concept of facade maintenance, and like I said it earlier, just getting deeper about what we're doing for the future, because the future is going to be quite different than what the past was. And yeah, I just appreciate being able to come to this and be heard and have that opportunity. And thank you so much for all that you have enlightened me about.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, any further public comment? Okay, seeing none. Yeah, I just want to add that I know it may appear like a bait and switch, but I think that it's important to recognize, and what was addressed, you know, very clearly in our staff report, is that it had gone through various iterations and different ownership and different project ideas, and now I don't know if this third, fourth iteration of this specific project site. And so, you know, I just want to acknowledge that it's not the same team that originally started the project, and I know that the city started a project early with a whole nother, you know, entity, and so kind of have to consider it its own project and review it on that basis. The staff report was clearly, you know, demonstrated that they were compliant with, you know, our design review guidelines. So I appreciate the clarity in that staff report. You know, I think we got somewhere today, and I think that that's a positive for our community, and to be able to have potentially a transit hub if all their funding goes through. So I appreciate, you know, the collaboration and just the, you know, the respect across this committee, honestly, to be open to having those conversations and talking through hard decision points too. So thank you.
I'd like to just follow up on your comment too. Yeah, totally in agreement. And this whole group was all in on that first design. I think it was unanimously, you know, we were all jumping up and down going, yeah, that's a wonderful looking project. And what we got today was so different. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, anything further from the committee? Okay. All right, all. Well, thank you for a productive meeting today. With that, I will adjourn our meeting, and we'll see everyone soon. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.